The toughest private eye on television once faced a real-life enemy so relentless, even Hollywood refused to write it into a script. While America watched Robert Urich chase crooks through neon-lit Vegas and rain-soaked Boston, a stealthier villain was stalking him behind the scenes. And when that secret finally surfaced, the betrayal that followed would stun every studio executive in town. Stick around, because the truth behind TV's most dependable leading man is wilder, darker, and ultimately more inspiring than any episode he ever filmed. Robert Michael Urich wasn't born into the limelight. He drew his first breath on December 19, 1946, in the one-stoplight town of Toronto, Ohio, an iron ore community perched on the banks of the Ohio River. His parents, John Paul and Cecilia Monica, raised their Carpatho-Rusyn son in the Byzantine Catholic faith, a world of incense, steel mill grit, and unwavering work ethic. On a football scholarship at Florida State University, Urich played backup center, good enough to suit up, humble enough to study the playbook harder than anyone else. In Tallahassee, he crossed paths with a charismatic upperclassman named Burt Reynolds, whose confidence bordered on prophecy. The two swapped cracked-rib stories and daydreams of Hollywood long before either man had a SAG card. Yet the real magic sparked far from the gridiron. Urich majored in radio-television communications, earned a master's in broadcast management at Michigan State, and, ever the hustler, took voice lessons at the University of Chicago. By day, he sold ad time for WGN-TV at a meager $150 a week. By night, he moonlighted in local theater until the station fired him for conflict of interest. That pink slip hurt, till a late-night phone call offered him a bit role beside Clint Eastwood in Magnum Force. Suddenly, the kid from Toronto, Ohio, was riding shotgun with Dirty Harry. But Hollywood, like football, never promised a straight path. Urich's first series, a cheeky adaptation of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, crashed in 6 episodes. Then came the guest stint on the FBI and an early 70s parade of studio auditions. Nothing stuck until fate and a mustached guardian angel intervened. Burt Reynolds, already a box office comet, convinced producer Aaron Spelling to hear Urich read for a brand new mid-season gamble called SWAT. One audition later, Urich landed the role of Officer Jim Street, and America landed a new action obsession. Ratings soared, critics bristled at the violence, and by '76 network brass axed the show anyway. It wouldn't be the last time an Urich hit died young. He rebounded with comedic cameos on Soap and the short-lived Tabitha. But the real splash arrived in '78 when Spelling cast him as Dan Tana, the muscle car cruising private investigator of Vega. Urich added 40 pounds of lean muscle, prowled through casinos in pastel suits, and owned the neon noir vibe so completely that 2 Golden Globe nominations followed. Viewers couldn't get enough, until dwindling promotion drained the ratings and ABC yanked the plug after season 3. No matter. Urich's work ethic filled the vacuum. Endangered Species, The Ice Pirates, Invitation to Hell, and an armful of TV movies kept his resume packed. But it was Spencer, For Hire in 1985, that cemented him as the everyman hero American living rooms trusted. 3 seasons plus 4 90s telefilms later, he'd appeared in an astonishing 15 television series, an industry record some producers still cite when they argue that reliable can be star power. Yet behind the applause, Robert noticed a strange ache in his shoulder, a nagging pain no amount of courage could shrug off. The real plot twist was coming, and it would play out far away from camera crews. July 1996. Diagnosis: synovial sarcoma, an ultra-rare malignancy that strikes barely 1 person in a million. The odds that a TV icon in peak physical condition would draw that card? Practically science fiction. Robert was filming the Western drama The Lazarus Man when the news hit. He offered to shoot season 2 between chemo sessions. He even showed up on set bald, ready to work. Castle Rock Entertainment's reply? Cancellation by courier letter. The show collapsed overnight, and Urich filed a $1.5 million breach of contract suit, alleging they'd never asked whether he could still perform. The case settled under seal, but the damage was public and permanent. So Robert fought back the only way a leading man knows. He stayed in the frame. He hosted National Geographic Explorer, anchoring expeditions from Arctic ice floes to Saharan ruins, all while wearing a chemo pump under his field jacket. And when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire called in 2000, he walked away with $125,000 and donated every cent to the sarcoma research fund he and his wife had just launched at the University of Michigan. Between chemo cycles, he signed Broadway contracts, narrated Disney specials, and wrapped guest arcs faster than hospital IVs could drip. The tabloids called it bravado. He called it paying the mortgage. Long before the hospital gowns, there was a commercial shoot in 1974 where Robert pretended to marry a Canadian-born actress named Heather Menzies. Real make-believe became real vows on November 25, 1975. And the couple would weather 3 miscarriages before adopting Ryan, Emily, and Allison. Heather brought her own spotlight. She was Louisa Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, the cult heroine Jessica Six in Logan's Run, and a frequent guest on T.J. Hooker and Bonanza. She also survived ovarian cancer years before Robert's battle began, so when the diagnosis hit, she already knew the enemy's playbook. Together, they launched the Urich Fund, raising nearly $1 million for Michigan's Comprehensive Cancer Center and later expanding into the Robert Urich Foundation, a charity that now bankrolls cutting-edge immunotherapy trials and patient travel grants. Their marriage wasn't perfect. It was better. When Robert shaved his chemo-ravaged head, Heather chopped her own hair in solidarity. He once said, "She didn't just marry the actor, she married the fight." Viewers never saw that scene, but it changed everything that came after. By 1998, doctors declared Robert cancer-free. He celebrated by diving straight into UPN's Love Boat, The Next Wave, and then strutting onto Broadway as slick lawyer Billy Flynn in Chicago. But in November 2001, new lumps appeared. Treatments bought him months, not years. On April 16, 2002, with Heather and the kids holding vigil, Robert Urich's final credit rolled at age 55. Heather inhaled her grief and exhaled purpose. She became the foundation's public face, tripling its fundraising haul and lobbying Congress for sarcoma grants. Then, in November 2017, lightning struck twice. Terminal glioblastoma. She slipped away Christmas Eve that year, her children beside her, a ballerina's poise intact even in death. Ryan, who had driven his father to chemo appointments so carefully he dodged manhole covers, entered med school and is now an infectious disease specialist in Albuquerque. Emily became an ER nurse. Allison chose privacy. The 3 siblings chair the Urich Foundation today, funneling donations into the same labs that once mapped their father's tumor genome. Burt Reynolds, Robert's old locker room mentor, rocketed to superstardom in Smokey and the Bandit and Deliverance. But the off-screen story was pure, high-octane chaos. His 1988 wedding to bombshell Lonnie Anderson began with white doves and ended 5 years later in a divorce so toxic it produced tabloid headlines by the hour and emptied Reynolds' bank accounts of roughly $10 million. Flat broke, Burt faced a new legal storm when longtime girlfriend Pamela Seals allegedly demanded a slice of his Jupiter, Florida ranch and more hush money than his accountants could find. He sued, calling the claims blackmail. She countersued. Both finally settled once the lawyers grew tired of the circus. The contrast felt Shakespearean. Robert Urich spent his final years teaching cancer patients to hope. Burt Reynolds spent his in-bankruptcy court tallying alimony payments. Yet the two remained friends, bound by Seminole's sweat, failed surgeries, and a private understanding of how brittle fame can be. That's Hollywood. Identical dreams, opposite endings. Drive north on Ohio State Route 7, and you'll pass the Robert Urich interchange, newly refurbished in 2024 and draped each April with yellow sarcoma awareness ribbons. At 7083 Hollywood Boulevard, tourists still crouch for selfies beside the only Walk of Fame star that ever started with the letter U until Usher arrived. Inside the University of Michigan's Rogel Cancer Center, A plaque honors the Urich Foundation for underwriting next-gen CAR-T trials targeting soft tissue tumors. Researchers there credit the fund for jump-starting at least 3 Phase 1 studies now, enrolling patients nationwide. Back in Prince Edward County, Ontario, a quiet gray memorial stone hides behind the Westlake Church of Christ, where Robert's ashes rest. Each summer, local kids leave fresh baseballs on the marker, the same stitched white orbs Robert used to sign for them during family vacations. The reruns still pay residuals. The foundation still writes grants. And somewhere, a newly diagnosed sarcoma patient still hears Robert's voice on a YouTube clip and realizes the fight is winnable. A ruthless villain tried to scribble Robert Urich's final chapter in permanent ink. But the leading man grabbed the pen, flipped the page, and rewrote the ending himself. He transformed icy chemo drips into streams of grant money, turned primetime screen time into breakthrough medical trials, and spun raw grief into a rallying cry for anyone staring down the same monster. So the next time a late-night rerun of Spencer for hire flickers across your TV, remember? The mystery he couldn't crack on screen is funding the cure that might spare the next family in line. Urich's legacy isn't trapped in nostalgia. It's alive in every clinical chart stamped sarcoma survivor, in every research paper footnoted, supported by the Urich Foundation, and in each college scholarship awarded to a kid who never thought Hollywood cared about a town as small as their own. It pulses in the neon glow of the Vegas Strip he once patrolled on camera, and it whispers through the pine trees lining that quiet Ohio interchange that now bears his name. So tell us, which Robert Urich role left the biggest mark on you? Was it the cool grit of Dan Tana, the steadfast courage of Jake Spoon, or maybe the warm curiosity of the National Geographic host who made the Arctic feel like your backyard? Drop your answer below. Then smash that subscribe button for more untold Hollywood stories. Hit the bell so you never miss a twist. And share this video with a friend who still quotes Magnum Force.